Hello, Sergeant Harrison, Pinal County Sheriff's Office, Citizens Posse class. This is video number 4, and this afternoon we're going to talk a little bit about constitutional law. The constitutional law that we're going to talk about is a 50,000-foot view of constitutional law. As with any constitutional law, we are not an attorney, and we're going to just give you the very bare basics of our Declaration of Independence, our U.S. Constitution, and a little bit about how it kind of combines into with the role of law enforcement and how we play it. So let's talk about constitutional law for a minute. We the people meaning me, you, and everybody watching this video. We are the citizens of the United States. We the people are who they wrote this Constitution for, and it pertains to us. It's a living document. It's the most preserved document that we have today that governs our society in and around all parts of our land in all 50 states. So our performance objectives today, upon completion of this course, we'll have a general knowledge of the following: an overview of constitutional law, the executive power, judicial power, and legislative, our First, Second, and Fourth Amendments, and we're going to talk a little bit about our Arizona Constitution, the Pinal County Sheriff's Office, and the powers and duties of our elected sheriff and what he does. So what is constitutional law? Constitutional law is the fundamental law of a nation or state which establishes the character, the form, and structure of its government and provides and limits the power and authority of the government. In other words, we the people make the decisions. We try not to let government intrude on every aspect of our lives. Our U.S. Constitution, signed September 17th, 1787. That's how long this document's been around. Our preamble to our Constitution is: we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. Our founding fathers wrote that and signed September 17th, 1787. There were many constitutions that were started before that between each of the states, but this is the final version that covered all 50 states in 1787. In our government currently and still, we have 3 different branches of our government. We have our executive, we have our judicial, and we have our legislative. Our executive covers the president and the vice president. Our judicial covers our Supreme Court justices and our court system. And then our legislative branch covers our Congress, which is the House of Representatives, and our Senate, all in Washington. Our legislative branch, also called Congress, has 2 houses within that house. One is the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. Well, what do these folks do that are up in Washington, and how do they support us as citizens of the United States? Well, the House of Representatives is made up of 435 elected members divided among the 50 states. This is better known as the lower chamber of commerce. Their term lengths in the House are a little bit shorter than our senators. Okay. Now, the House, who divvies the monies, declares war, and makes the laws. And they put Fourth Amendments through. The Senate has 100 members, and 2 senators are from each state. So every state, regardless of the size of the state, whether it be Arizona or whether it be California or whether it be Maine, each state has 2. And this is known as the upper chamber of commerce. And the senators there, they serve 6 terms. They can serve a 6-year term, and there is no limit to the number of terms they can serve. So they do impeachment trials. They overlook our judicial areas that we have. So they have quite a bit of what they do. And then we talk about our executive branch, our presidents. Our presidents of the United States are part of the executive branch. Here's a photo of all of our presidents up till current date. And our current president is Donald Trump. What does he do? Well, our president of the United States is elected to a 4-year term and can be elected again up to 8 years. Some of his duties are vetoes or reject bills passed in Congress. He calls Congress into special session if something is needing to pertain, such as funding for, say, a large wildfire that's happened in California or large flooding that's happened in Texas. They can call in and get funding for those types of things. He serves as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. He serves as the Chief Commander in all of those armed forces. He receives leaders and other officials of foreign countries. He makes treaties. Now, looking at making treaties with Senate approval, when the President selects somebody, they can the Senate will approve or disapprove that person as they go through the process, kind of like a background check, and support them in getting that job with approval from the Senate. He chooses, the President will appoint or choose people in charge of executive agencies, federal judges, and other jobs, such as the Supreme Court justices. He can pardon or reduce the penalties against people convicted of federal crimes. And where do we fall in that as a law enforcement agency? Well, law enforcement is part of our executive branch. Our Sheriff's Office, Pinal County Sheriff's Office, falls under the executive branch. Our law enforcement officers regulate behaviors and enforce order within their territory, us as Pinal County, and the betterment of the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the Pinal County citizens. Our sheriff, what is it that our sheriff does, and what is his powers and what is his duties? Arizona Revised Statute 11-441 is what gives him the powers to do his job. Currently in Pinal County, Sheriff Mark Lamb is our elected official. His job duties is to preserve the peace, prevent and suppress all altercations, breaches of the peace, any riots and insurrections which may come to knowledge of the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff may, in the execution of his duties prescribed in subsection A, paragraphs 1 through 4, command the aid of as many inhabitants of the county as the Sheriff deems necessary, meaning you, the citizens' posse. The Sheriff can command you to come and support him when in time of need, such as the fires, the flooding, the evacuations, those types of things. You will be one to be called upon should he call upon you. The Sheriff, in the execution of his duties prescribed in this section, may request the aid of a volunteer posse, which would be you, and reserve organizations, reserve deputies located within our county, Pinal County. That's why we have so many different styles of posse members that we have, and so many layers that we do. Going on to the judicial branch. Their main power is to decide whether laws are working fairly. Okay? They render the final opinion on questions regarding the interpretation of the U.S. Constitution, a system of court that interprets and applies law in legal cases. State of Arizona, Pinal County is in the 9th Circuit, and then above them is the justices. Okay, what makes it over the 9th Circuit would be their decision as the justices of the Supreme Court of the United States. Let's talk a little bit about our Bill of Rights, better known as some of the amendments to the U.S. Constitution. But these are the first 10 are known as the Bill of Rights. And what are they? One is the freedom of speech. our freedom of speech to be able to speak freely in the United States and is bar none very powerful. We can say things and talk about things that we want to talk about without repercussions from our government and speak our minds. What we can't do is that we can't yell fire in an auditorium. That's not free speech. That's causing disorderly conduct, and that's not acceptable. We want to make sure that that's clear, that your freedom of speech, if you don't like something, you can say something, but you can't incite a riot based on your speech, what you're doing. Our Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. We in law enforcement encourage our citizens to have a firearm and be knowledgeable on a firearm, to have a firearm for their person. But we want you to be knowledgeable. We want you to have that training. We want you to have that experience. We want you to have the know-how, how to operate it, how to use it, how to maintain it, how to clean it, how to take care of it, know the rules and the legal obligations that you have owning a firearm in our county. We want you to understand and know all those things. It's important that you understand the ramification of owning a firearm and everything that goes beyond having that firearm on your person. Our Third Amendment states that soldiers cannot take over a home during war or peacetime without the homeowner's permission. Number 4, protects Americans from unreasonable searches and unlawful searches and seizures of property. One of our videos today will cover in depth on the search and seizure, and we'll get much more in depth in how we as in law enforcement use searches and seizures and making sure that we are on the right page of doing that. Because this all fits together at the very end, where we derive our laws from, how it gets processed, and how we use them in law enforcement to make sure that we are on the right track and keeping up with our case law that go along with it. Our Fifth Bill of Rights is allowing all citizens due process and states that a person cannot be forced to serve as a witness against himself when accused of a crime. You hear the term, I plead the Fifth, and that's what that is. It's the right to self-incriminate yourself. Number 6, provides a speedy and public trial by jury for all who are accused of a crime. In other words, you can have a jury trial and get it done. It needs to be within a reasonable amount of time, not years and years and years and then hold that over your head. It's the right to a speedy trial and get it done as quickly as possible when all the elements on the prosecution and the defense are ready to go. And it forces both sides of the fence to ensure that they are within the guidelines and a speedy time frame. Number 7, also allows a trial by jury to be held for certain civil disputes. That's more on the federal side, but a trial by jury to be held for certain civil disputes when it comes to some type of money. Those are normally what that is. Our Eighth Amendment, our Eighth Bill of Rights, prevents those accused of suffering cruel and unusual punishment. We can't beat it out of you. We can't hurt you. We can't do that. That's part of why our Eighth Bill of Rights is that. Number 9, states that no one's constitutional rights should be used to infringe upon the rights of another citizen. We can't take your constitutional rights, and neither can any other citizen. And we can't infringe upon the rights of any other citizen either, nor can you. Number 10, provides each state with powers that are not specifically to the nation's government in the Constitution. And it's up to the governors. Each state has their own, like Arizona has a constitution, we have our own rights and our own items that we go by based upon our own state rules and of the land. What is our First Amendment? We're going to talk a little bit about the main ones that we speak about in law enforcement. And our first one is our First Amendment. We have freedom of religion. We can worship whatever God that we choose to or not choose to. We talked a little bit about freedom of speech. We can talk and speak our piece on whatever we talk about without inciting a riot, without causing anguish to anybody while we're doing that. Freedom of the press. The freedom of the press. We have newspapers, we have folks that are in the media that help out and publish their views based on facts, and sometimes not so factual. But that's their right to be able to push that out to the population of the United States. The right to assemble. We can right to peacefully assemble. If we don't like something, we can protest that in a peaceful manner and be out there in the streets that we don't like something as American citizens, to try to get something to sway a decision to make change in America for the better. In your neighborhood, all the way up to Washington, D.C., to make change at the federal level. The right to petition the government or redress grievances. That's another one. Our Second Amendment, let's touch base on that one. The Second Amendment has been interpreted as assuring the states of their right to maintain a militia, but not to restrict in any manner the government's control of guns. The right to bear arms, our Second Amendment, the government is not taking our guns. We each have that's in our Constitution. We're not changing that. Essentially, the right to bear arms, what it says, in a well-regulated militia being necessary to secure to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And then, of course, you have a photo of the Statue of Liberty carrying a firearm, which is great. Our Fourth Amendment. Like I said, we're going to have another class on this altogether, and we're going to be able to talk a lot more in depth on this. But no unreasonable searches and seizures applies only to searches and seizures, not to consensual encounters, and a police officer may simply stop to chat with somebody without raising a Fourth Amendment issue. And similarly, a dog may sniff the air without the sniff being considered a Fourth Amendment search. We'll have another instructor speak more in depth on our Fourth Amendment rights, how it plays into the law enforcement hands. Sheriff Lamb, or any sheriff, what is the role of the sheriff? The sheriff is most often an elected county official who serves as the chief civil law enforcement officer of their jurisdiction. In this case, it's Pinal County. Those that are watching, the sheriff in your jurisdiction has jurisdiction over their county but doesn't have in our county. The sheriff enforces court orders and mandates and may perform such duties as such evictions, seizing property and assets pursuant to court orders, and serving warrants and legal papers. The sheriff continues to have the authority to command the assistance of as many inhabitants of the county as may be necessary to carry out their duties. The sheriff may also form a posse if deemed necessary, hence the citizens posse, citizens on patrol posse. Our patrol posse, we have lots of different posses and levels of blankets and levels of security in our Pinal County Sheriff's Office that we use to secure our area in the event we need assistance from our civilian groups. The statutes provide that the sheriff may employ prisoners inside or outside the county jail, such as our chain gangs, and we can have them go and we can have them clean the roadways and put them to work maintaining our roadways, helping clean out. We may help them clean up trees and cut grass and things like that while they're out there. Also responsible is the sheriff. His part of his biggest duties is providing law enforcement in the unincorporated areas of Pinal County. We have Eloy, we have a lot of that. We have 17 cities and towns within Pinal County, and out of those, there's a lot of them that are uncovered that don't have law enforcement. So the sheriff is the law enforcement officer within that jurisdiction and within Pinal County that we supervise and we cover. We also custody of the county jail and the care of prisoners. We have our jail here in Florence, and we maintain a very we maintain a jail that is safe and secure for all prisoners, and we've received many accolades in the past. We serve the Superior Court orders and warrants through the county, collection of delinquent taxes, conducting or coordinating within the county of search and rescue operations involving the life and health of any persons. We spoke about at the very beginning of video number 1, where we have search and rescue posse that is out there, that we employ them because they have specialized training and that can help those that are in need, whether hiking or accidental, whichever the case may be. We do have that responsibility in the sheriff's office to preserve life and death when it comes to search and rescue operations. Who has authority over a sheriff? Well, not all states or counties have one, but the sheriff, an elected official, is usually known as the highest law enforcement of the county. In this county, it's Sheriff Mark Lamb. He has the law enforcement powers exceeding that of any other state and federal official. The feds may have forgotten authority resides within the sheriff. So even the federal government doesn't have it within the sheriff, within our jurisdiction. And did you know, generally the sheriff's responsible for police patrol in unincorporated areas of the county, but retains full jurisdiction within the entire county. Generally, city or village police handle general law enforcement duties in incorporated areas. And if you were asking which American law enforcement agency has the most authority, it's your local sheriff. And when it comes to enforcing the law, which is to say enforcing the Constitution of the United States of America, the sheriff, being the chief law enforcement officer, answers to we the people, meaning you and I. No one else, not even the governor. Like any other elected official, the sheriff cannot be removed from office by any other person.